what do you think of the people today who are just putting 100% of their portfolio into GME or Bitcoin or any of these things?
I'm the wise old man. I've taken the journey, and you won't make it. You won't make it fully loaded. So, like, my bet to my young friends is have the audacity to size low. Have the audacity to believe that this thing you love, you know, the disciples even rejected Jesus on the last night.
Oh, just diamond hands, dude. Just diamond hands. What are you, a pussy? I mean, that's not, you know, that's not realistic. That's not.
I don't know that term. Is that a poker term? Diamond hand?
No, that's a new money, or what all the gamblers say.
That's
just,
what the hodl.
The hodl?
How's the hodl?
Just hold and don't ever sell. Just
The only person you want to hodl is me. I'm your best friend.
There's a bit of a beat, like 10,000.
It's a huge beat. No, I thought it was small. It was 275.
Oh, maybe I misread it.
No, I think it was a massive figure. And of course, it came after the ADP.
Well, that was it.
I was like, which one is right? I mean, the non-farm payrolls gets revised, just only gets revised one
Maybe that's
way.
what I was thinking. Maybe last month got downwardly revised by 10,000.
But it has to be said, in 2008, the non-farm payrolls was weak just about all of that year.
But not 2007. And the market peaked in like August, right around there of 2007.
Did it pop? 2007.
Yeah, it was like August.
Wait, it peaked on September. It's the Fed cut.
Was that what it was? When it peaked that month's top?
Yeah, because I was sitting with a gigantic, because I had swaptions, you know, so I had a max loss position on options, and it was big. I could lose 10% of my equity book. But at the same time, I had a monster position in the cash 2s10s. So the option was predicated on where that spread would be in 2 years' time.
And this is in 2007.
2007, yeah. But the futures was just predicated. We were just set on the cash where we were in the present. And again, I was carrying a lot of risk. And we went into that Fed meeting, and I'm like, come on, there's no way the Fed cuts at an all-time high. And so I took the futures position off. And of course the Fed, like the scorpion on the frog's back. Boom. Mr. Fed, why did you cut at the all-time high? Because we were born that way, you know. And
when the ECB cut.
Yeah, I mean, ECB, remember, had raised rates in the summer of 2008. Those guys are idiots. With their hard money rhetoric bullshit.
The ECB in Canada cut.
But if I had kept the futures position, the money I'd have made on that would have been pretty awesome. So instead, I'm 2 years out, and then I was just going through like the worst acid trip you can imagine, because 2 years out, the market's like, well, you just cut at the all-time high. You guys are crazy. So within 2 years, you're going to be hiking. You'll probably have to hike beyond where you are today. Market still just didn't see the ferocity of the impending collapse.
Right.
I mean, impending, it was all coming apart at the time.
Yeah.
So I sat there. I had missed the biggest P&L on the cash futures, and my 2s10 swaption like went against me. So I lost money. I just like.
It just goes to show you can be right about the direction and still lose money if you get the timing wrong, or it's really the more you learn about it. Obviously, I'm just beginning to learn, but the more you learn, the more you understand how difficult it is, especially to be successful over time.
Well, it speaks to position size.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna get shit wrong. That's the only thing you know.
Yeah, right.
You're gonna get shit wrong. And the one thing you can't get wrong is position size, because if you get that wrong, you don't get to last the journey. So despite the immense frustration that I suffered back then, it did knock me out.
Right.
And a year later, in the month of October, I made 50%. So I made it, but boy, that was a journey.
So what do you think of the people today who are just putting 100% of their portfolio into GME or Bitcoin or any of these
been saying. I mean, if you're a kid, and you're in a hurry to catch up with the parents, to catch up with everyone else that's been boosted, you're like, where's my boost? And I'm saying, you know, little brother, come on, like, if you go 100%, I mean, I'm the wise old man. I've taken the journey, and you won't make it. You won't make it fully loaded. So, like, my bet to my young friends is have the audacity to size low. Have the audacity to believe that this thing you love, you know, the disciples even rejected Jesus on the last night. So take that and have the audacity to believe that you can actually buy more at 20, 30, 40% below we are. Because the only thing I know, the only certainty is, from time to time you're stopped in your tracks, you're like, I just didn't think that was possible. And you've got to be armed for the I didn't think that was possible, because the I didn't think that was possible keeps happening. We're in a rinse and repeat market.
Yeah, my point, as you know, Josh, with all that, is the average investor doesn't have the emotional capacity. They don't have the emotional discipline to do those things that Hugh's talking about.
They're in a hurry.
Yeah, they don't have the emotional discipline to ride the volatility, right? Like, think about that. Like, my portfolio, let's say it's $1 million, right? Or the average investor, let's say their portfolio is $100,000, and that's all of their net worth, that's their life savings. They've been pinching every penny for 10 years to have that. I mean, that's a big deal. That represents their retirement. So think about what's going on inside your head. If your whole entire portfolio is 2 or 3 positions, and those positions are going against you, how hard is it going to be, if not impossible, for you to go ahead and make a prudent decision? You say, oh, George, we'll just diamond hands. Okay, fine. Tell that to the guy, the 50-year-old plumber, that's his entire life savings, and his retirement is dependent upon those positions coming to fruition. Oh, just diamond hands, dude. Just diamond hands. What are you, a pussy? I mean, that's not, that's not realistic. That's not.
I don't know that term. Is that a poker term? Diamond hand?
No, that's a new money, or what all the gamblers say.
That's
just,
what it says.
I've never heard of it.
hodl.
The hodl.
How's the hodl?
Just hold and don't ever sell. Just
The only
never
person
ever
you want to
sell.
hodl is me. I'm your best friend. But you're talking about 100,000, George. Like this message is going out to the kids who are working tables. They've got 2K. They've got 2,000 Benjamins.
So what would
2,000 Benjamins is that's all they got.
Yeah, and I agree that you have to have a different mentality at a different age. But the point is, how do you get that 100,000 in savings? It's by saving the 2,000 to begin with, right? Yeah. If you're blowing the 2,000, and with you can have all the diamond hands you want, but you're never going to get to that position, and then you're really screwed, right? Then you fast forward to the guy that's 50 years old, that's been wiped out, that has been gambling, if you want to call it that, or quote unquote investing, and now only has, let's say, $25,000 of savings, if any savings at all. Now what do? You're 50 years old. You're only going to be able to...
stop saying 50 years old? I mean, it's making me uncomfortable.
You know what I'm saying?
I don't know what you're saying, baby.
But, like, remember when we were doing that live stream the other day, Josh, where we were going through that Wall Street Journal article where they interviewed all those people in San Francisco, like those 10 people?
Yeah.
And real life people, and how much they make, and how inflation has impacted them. And they talked about their savings and their rent and how much they make every month. And there was that one guy and I related to it because he was my age, like 50, 51. And the dude makes like $2 or $3 grand a month, and he's living in his car and no savings. I mean, yeah, just think about that. I mean, if you're 20 years old, that's one thing. But if you're 50 or 60 and doing that, and how did he get to that position? He even said in there, well, I made some bad decisions. But yeah, you probably made some, like, you didn't save, and what you did save, you didn't treat it in a prudent fashion, and next thing you know, you wake up one day and you're 55.
Yeah.
The time goes quick.
He sounds like an acid communist. He wants to be an acid capitalist and move out of the car.
Yeah, I mean,
The dogs of woe, like Caravan Park, my paranoia. You're never gonna believe the new Asset Capitals track, which is out there. But yeah, seriously, it's
But see, that's the problem with the whole, just whole when you're young is that's fine, but if it doesn't pan out, then you got real big problems.
But can I say it's the Chinese Communist fault? I mean, I said he was an acid communist. He's the acid Chinese communist because it wasn't always like this. I mean, you know that. It wasn't like this. You made money. You make money from an entrepreneur, from hard work.
Josh, how many times have I said this on the streams? I've said this to you countless times.
It is the prostitution of the immense American economy. The pillar of entrepreneurship has become the debacle of speculation.
Yeah.
Speculation.
Yeah.
Is this really long tunnel?
Yeah.
Oh, this is such a long tunnel.
Yeah, when we were young, I mean, Hugh and I were, from the same time. There was no get rich in the stock market. My buddies, we didn't even know what the stock market was until we were probably 25 years old.
Oh, Josh,
and when we were young, the way you get rich is you work 80 hours a week and you start a business. That's the way all my buddies, if you would have asked us when we were...
And you did that.
Yeah. Yeah, but if you would have asked us when we were 15, hey, how do people get rich? We never would have said, oh, in the stock market, or oh, buying a house. Never. We'd say, you got to work your ass off and you got to start a business. You got to be an entrepreneur. That's how you get rich.
I didn't turn the lights on.
Probably just...
I think. So several things I was vibing when you were talking there. When I was young, I was old. Maybe I'm the flip. I'm the Benjamin Button.
You're definitely flipped it up.
I'm definitely flipped. I've definitely flipped. But actually, boy, what age was I? Maybe 14 or so. But in the UK with Thatcherism, Reaganism, Thatcherism, but it was more pronounced in the UK with regard to stock markets because they started IPOing national utilities. And she wanted a community of risk takers, which was, because they were all taken from the teat of the state, and she was trying to cut it, and she was trying to say, listen, the service is shit, you own it, and once you own it, you're going to demand that it get better, you're going to make it better. And so that was my comprehension of markets. Suddenly there were TV adverts, and they had a stupid chicken or something, beep beep, you got to buy British Telecom, because they used to have yellow vans, and it was British Gas, and they had these slogans, have you seen Sid? It was just stupid, but and I remember, so my parents, real working class, truck driver, my mother a receptionist, they bought stock. The other thing they did, I was way younger, but so the first step she gave was, again, she kept trying to get you off the teat of the state, and she's stop renting, you're in these housing estates, you don't own it, and you don't
Thatcher was saying that.
Yeah, she was saying, if you own it, you're going to take care of it, right? It's the kind of no broken window philosophy. Own the damn thing and put respect into your community. So she came in and she allowed you to buy, if you were renting, she allowed you to buy the public housing stock at the wrong price. And she wanted to give you equity.
Got a good view right here.
Yeah, look at that view.
Anyway, yeah, she was really promoting that.
And that's
not just risk taking, but investing, privatization, and
so how do we do that again, right? And so I'm saying to you that
but back, I think the problem is now that everything's in an asset bubble, or prices are so high, that it makes there's an extreme barrier of entry, where back then, I don't know what the valuations were, but in the States they were ridiculously low.
Yeah, it was a global.
Well, the barrier to entry to start a business has never been lower.
That's true.
That's true.
When
you guys could not have started a business like I have, when you guys guys were young. It would have been
back then to
impossible.
start the business, you had to borrow, half
You
$1
would have
million
made cash.
dollars.
Now you can make money from
You had to have a
nothing.
brick and mortar location.
Yeah.
You had to have a product. There was a lot that went into it.
And it's, we've been hanging with our reality TV friends, and they're caught. Like, so everyone wants to be on TV, and they don't get paid a lot of money.
No.
And you don't need it, because with the telephone, okay, the iPhone 15 or whatever it's called, the new one, that's cinematic. That cinematic is a TV camera.
Oh yeah.
And you just need you and your buddy, and you can actually make TV. And if you've got personality, you're going to be a network.
A good thing. I'm a great example of that. I mean, I was.
Yeah, you are. You're the rebel cap. It's funny, you're the rebel, I'm the acid,
Yeah.
but we're capitalist. But in the world of, so the issue is back then everything was gracias. Everything was cheap. Now everything's expensive.
Yeah.
But it's expensive because I keep saying the acid communists from China just set in motion a tidal wave of liquidity from their deficit of consumer spending, their surplus of savings. And that tidal wave just made US asset prices higher and higher and just disenfranchised the good folk. Okay, so I would come in, I would tax them. I'd have a withholding tax on their $6-7 trillion. That's just the Chinese. I'd have the same thing on the Koreans, on the Japanese, on the Taiwanese, on the Germans, on everyone. Yeah. And from that, I would build a sovereign wealth fund. But it would be the exclusive provision to the disenfranchised. So there would. So again, I mean, it is a state intervention, but something like rich folk should pay for their medication. The poor folk, maybe, like you can mean test it, and you mean test this sovereign wealth fund. I mean, if you're a billionaire, you don't need the sovereign wealth fund. And so what you do is a bit like, it's in the UK, it's the public house. What was it? The public housing stock is sitting there. So you're taxing the mercantilists. You're putting it into a macro compass-like portfolio. You've got treasuries, you've got equities, you've got alternatives, you've got Bitcoin, you've got gold, you've got real estate, you've got private equity, and you've got cash, dollar cash. And you let that accumulate, and then you start sending certificates out to the young kids. And you say, listen, you were born in the land of the free. You were born in a society that used to be entrepreneurial. And we're giving you this certificate. And we pray, little brother, little sister, hold on to it. This is your admission. We're giving you fun tokens. But it's not going to be fun if you cash it in right now. Like, you're now part of the enfranchised. Enjoy. That's what I would do.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. And on paper it makes sense. I worry about the incentive structure there. And, there's always trade-offs.
But I ain't hearing any counter offers out there. Like,
well, I always try to do a thought experiment and ask myself, what would the United States be like short-term, long-term if asset prices were 50% lower? So S&P 50% lower, housing 50% lower. Obviously short-term, that would be complete devastation. But over the long run, would it create an incentive structure that maybe was more conducive to producing goods and services, like when we were growing up in the 1970s and the 1980s? I don't know the answer.
Well, then take it back to what you were saying last night. Like, someone who's doing well and is picking up in gross terms $100,000. I mean, that's a nice. I don't know what that is. It's not entry level, but I don't know what age you are. What age you perceive that as being? You're doing well.
I mean, I think if you're 30 years old and you're making $100,000 a year, that would be really solid.
And then what we're saying, like, so then we're going to tax it, and what, you're down to net 75.
Yeah, probably a little more because you got write-offs, and if you got a kid.
So you might get 80 or something.
Yeah, call it 80.
Yeah. So you got 80, and then you got your car financing. You need your accommodation.
See, that's a big problem, right? That goes back to housing. If housing, right now, rent is just insane, and then
So
obviously
like Miami seemed cheap. I mean, like Miami's crazy, but like for a crazy place, but with the overbuild, you're getting really, really nice smaller units, but sea view, whatever, for $3,000 a month. So they call that 40,000.
Yeah, if you were making
that's not cheap, Hugh. That's cheap for you, but that's not cheap for a dude making $100 grand.
No, of course, because you start at 80, you take the 40 off, you've just halved them. You take the car financing, and, you know, the drug habit and all that stuff.
and then food's gonna run you another $2,000. If you want a date, you're screwed after that.
You got to fill your car up with gas. You got to Tesla your car.
Yeah, you got insurance. I mean, you got a lot of.
And then you go to the bar, and you're competing with me, and the cocktails are $30.
Yeah.
And Hugh's buying a bottle of Casa Azul. How are you going to compete with that?
That Casa Azul was sweet last night. Sweet. But there you go. I mean, that was 1,200 Benjamins last night.
Yeah.
That is the wrong damn price.
We'll have to thank George for that one.
George, gracias.
Yeah, but that's the plight of not just the average guy. That's the plight of the guy that's doing well.
That's the plight of the majority. And you know,
I would say the plight of the majority is far lower, because the average income, Hugh, in the United States, I would say for a male 30 years old, there's no way it's $100 grand. I would say it's probably, what, Josh, maybe
Probably 65, 70.
oh, do it. DuckDuckGo. No, go Chat GPT or what's it called? It's not called Serendipity. What's that really dope new AI? The one that Stan loves.
Perplexity.
The name perplexes me. And ask it what the GDP per capita in the US.
Well, that's like I know the average
GDP. You got to do per capita income.
Well, GDP's income. And when I said per capita, you divide it by the number of people.
So it's 50,000 for a 30-year-old male.
And is that gross or is that net? I think that's net.
That's going to be net.
GDP is going to include a lot more than.
So imagine 50K. And
You can't even afford the rent at the apartment that you were talking about in Miami.
wow, man, you'd have to stop drinking tequila.
That's not an option.
And you're not going to have any excess savings to save any future.
You ain't gonna have any money. I mean, you know.
And think about that in terms of, regardless of why inflation has gone up, we can debate that all day long, or the price has gone up. The bottom line is they have massively since, call it 2019. So, people like to look at the data and assume that the wages are going up at the same rate, but they're not. So your purchasing power
I'm pushing back on that, George. I'm pushing back. When you look at the long-term data, the price of all the ordinary things goes down. But the healthcare, anything the government's involved in, goes higher.
Well, but let's look at the purchasing power, because that's what I'm talking about. So if you look at wages, they have not kept up with price inflation. That's if you buy the headline CPI, which I would argue understates it quite a bit.
I still don't know, George.
Like you haven't been in the U.S.
Yeah,
you don't
got to hang out there for a second.
I'm living in the US. I go to Hollywood and I
But
go to.
you are not the average person from an income
The
perspective.
prices to St. Bart's.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Yeah, St. Bart's goes up 300% a month.
Oh, it does.
No.
St. Bart's is, to
they're
your
just
point,
expensive,
St.
yeah.
Bart's is actually, I don't want to use the word cheap. St. Bart's is not cheap, but it's
The housing is
it's cheaper in the States. Like when I go to my places in the States, I'm like, wow, you're right. Like I go to the airport and I don't do it anymore because I just eat protein. And boy, did we have, wow, man, we had the biggest protein breakfast this morning. But previously I'd buy a sandwich from the airport and some fizzy water and a packet of
it's like $30.
oh yeah, you don't get change out of 40. It's like boom.
And if you're making $50,000 a year, that's about what you make a day. If you put it in that perspective.
Yeah, and also too with those numbers, and we've gone over this several times on the videos. If you look at the average wage, you've got to age stratify it, because that includes 16 to 24-year-olds that are still living at home, and their wages have gone up way more than, let's just say, 24 to 54, which are the people that kind of middle income America with kids and families and whatnot. So when you take out that group, then the average wage hasn't even come close to going up at the same rate of inflation. And that's if you buy the numbers. Therefore, that purchasing power, that's just really declined.
Unless they own assets. So it's really
Exactly.
people without assets that have been
But
screwed.
again, you square the circle by trying to give people a kind of public fund which has equity participation in the whole thing. Because the
But I mean,
Feds are going to buy it. The market's going to be down at some point.
Right, but what is the difference
40%.
between that and the S&P 500? I mean, that's effectively what it is, or what it's turned into.
What?
Just like a savings account or what people perceive to be a savings account for Americans based on the American economy. I mean, that's how it's presented. Obviously, that's not what it is.
And George, is it true, like with the public pension scheme? They don't really fund it, do they? I mean, they pretend it's invested in the S&P and stuff, but it just gets paid out. It's a pay-as-you-go scheme.
Like a
they pay it
Ponzi scheme.
Ponzi scheme. They pay it from this year's revenues.
I don't know how that works.
I don't think like the U.S. government, like again, why don't they have a sovereign wealth fund? Like they keep pretending, but they're not invested. Imagine they'd actually been invested.
Are you talking about Social Security?
Yeah, Social Security.
Yeah, I think it's just. I mean,
It's Ponzi.
yeah.
And George, explain, like, we're in your dope, fantastic Mercedes car, feeling like a rock star, and where are we going?
We're going up to Rio Negro, which is about 45 minutes up the hill from Medellin, and that's up where the airport is, and there's a really nice area up there called Llano Grande, so we've got this big 10-bedroom hacienda that we got on Airbnb for me and all the guys. We got about 8 or 9 guys going up there. And actually, Dan's going to be there. Mike Maloney's partner, a lot of you guys might know. Dan and Mike Maloney. But he's meeting us up there, and then we're going to...
hearing lots of men are going to be there.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll fix that tonight when we go out, and the ratio will be a little bit better. And that's what the objective is. And we got dinner planned at this kind of nice suburb called San Antonio. And then we've got this dive bar that is really popular with my buddies who come down from the States, and we're going to hit that up tonight and have some fun.
Are we going to Bukowski's bars, my evening news? I'm going to take a hire with my Ginsberg Air. I'm sorry, I'm still rapping from the Acid Capital. So
No, this is. I don't think you could get a bar that is more opposite than St. Bart's than where we're going tonight. I don't think it's possible.
Joe, I don't think you've been to Sayalita in St. Bart's.
Which one is that?
It's the surf bar, it's the dive bar. It's where all the local kids go.
Is that the one that's up on the hill?
Up on the hill.
Hours?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I went with Brian till like 5 or 6 in the morning. That's where we went. Well, you don't remember. You weren't
You don't
there.
need to
You were
know.
out of
You don't
town.
need to know.
We went to the La Cafe. Or that's
Yeah,
La Cafe. We went there for the live. Well, first of all, we went to the.
Did you like that?
Loved it. The guy on the piano and everything. That's fantastic. But we went to dinner at that place in the industrial area. I didn't even know that was there.
Oh, the Japanese one?
No, I think it was like Greek food or Middle Eastern.
Oh, yeah, it's Sela.
Yeah, that was.
It's on a beach, George. It's just dark. But yeah, it's where the power plant is and the port, yeah.
Yeah, so that was really, really cool. We went over there.
That was, the story with that was an institution. It's called Maya, named after the eponymous chef. And I hated it. It was dull and expensive, and it was all that kind of waspy, East Coast crowd. They come down and just eat like mediocre food and go, yeah, we're at Maya. But now it's Sela. And weirdly, I hadn't been to Sela for 2 years. The food was really good.
Yeah.
And the
Was it too light in there for you, Hugh?
it was. Now it's dark. Yeah, now it's dark. Well, but then when they got hot girls, like I had a party a few weeks ago. They came to the house. So they take care of me, which is
Yeah, it was. And Goldie knew everyone over there, so she
Goldie
was
knows
able,
everyone.
Yeah, but that was nice going over there with her and Brian because they were able to get us kind of the best table and everything. So we had dinner there. Then we went to La Cafe for the music show and drinks, and then that got out at like 1, and then we went to that after hours.
Oh, you went to
place.
Casa.
Yeah.
Casa, that's a cockroach.
Yeah.
I heard some of the stories, George, about you.
I've heard some from Brian as well.
Yeah, we had a good time.
George is a legend at Casa. Because I heard you took the VIP down. You're like, get out of my way. I'm laying down a Gammon.
from what I can remember.
I had it just as
a
well.
little hazy.
Yeah, I heard from George's buddies that are here that he invented bottle service in about 2007.
Yeah, way back in the day. Yeah, I was doing it before it was cool. Before you saw it on rap videos, I was doing it.
George the man.